The wise man has returned, and he brought an old friend. That's what happened on this week's edition of WWE SmackDown War Games. Teams are completed, as it's going to be the original Bloodline. Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, and Sami Zayn teaming with CM Punk to take on the new version of the Bloodline, Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, and Bronson Reed. And what an ending to what I thought was a really good edition of SmackDown. You had several big-time developments on this show. The stuff with Cody and Kevin Owens. We'll get to that in a second. I thought it was an unbelievable exchange between those two. You also had some mysterious developments with Jade Cargill being laid out and all that. We'll get to it shortly. But let's start with what happened at the end of this episode of SmackDown, as it was the wise man Paul Heyman returning, seeing that the Bloodline were outnumbered 5 versus 4. As Solo said, he was calling for the terms of surrender. He wanted Roman Reigns to throw in the towel. 5-on-4. There was no chance for Roman, Jey, Jimmy, and Sami. No chance for them to go into this War Games match and be successful if they didn't have a 5th member. There was discussion in the back before Sami bringing up, should we go to Seth Rollins again? Cody Rhodes was mentioned by Jey as a possibility. These were the 3 that we said, right, going into it. If you wanted to logically put the pieces together, it probably was going to be one of these 3 based on how they pushed it over the past couple weeks. But then we started to see the Cody and Kevin Owens stuff very separate, which I'm glad. You don't have Cody involved in the Bloodline stuff anymore, and they made it very clear on this edition that just simply wasn't the case, at least for now, until maybe we get the return of The Rock or something like that closer to WrestleMania 41. So that really left Seth Rollins or CM Punk, which we talked about on this week's edition of Raw. The way they kind of teased it and the way they made Seth Rollins so adamant that he would not team with Roman Reigns under any circumstances, despite the fact that Bronson Reed had joined the other side, right? There was no chance, though, that Seth Rollins, even with the interference potentially from Solo and company during that match with Bronson Reed on Raw, you still were going to have the questions. Was Seth Rollins going to come to SmackDown and get involved here? And was Seth going to actually step in and change his mind after the Bloodline did get involved to cost him his match with Bronson Reed? Well, he didn't get that opportunity because Paul Heyman had another plan, and now there are so many things that are put in motion from this. For starters, you have Seth Rollins' reaction. How do you think he's going to react to this idea that CM Punk, someone we know he was scheduled to have this big WrestleMania 40 match with until the injury from Punk last year or earlier this year at the Royal Rumble, that didn't happen. But these two don't like each other. And so CM Punk makes the decision that he's going to go team with Roman Reigns after Rollins, again, made it so clear that not under any circumstances would he do such a thing until they made us have a little bit of a doubt on that after what happened in the main event on Raw. And so I think that is going to be fantastic because that seemingly confirms another big match for WrestleMania 41, which we all kind of thought would be the case. And that, I think, based on the way we're seeing this play out here in November, you've got to think it's going to be Punk versus Rollins at WrestleMania 41. And we had already discussed that idea, several weeks, even months back, that would be something that you could certainly see WWE and Triple H wanting to do to get to the match that never happened this year. Also, what else happens out of this? Well, you do have Paul Heyman's return, right? And so you have the dynamic now with Paul Heyman bringing back CM Punk, an old friend, an old client. And now it's how does Roman Reigns react to that, going into what feels like the biggest match of Roman Reigns' career, right? We're kind of overhyping it, but you get the point. The way they've set this up, like this is basically survive or die for Roman Reigns, going against, this new version of the Bloodline, this ruthless version. Solo has brought in all of these guys, and then you add Bronson Reed to the mix, who we know is willing to do anything and everything to destroy whoever's on the other side of him. And so I think now it becomes so much more interesting because you have Reigns teaming with CM Punk. We mentioned the possibilities of what happens if Reigns teams with Seth Rollins, but now it's Punk. And it's still Jey, and it's still Jimmy, and it's still Sami, right? People, that history is still there. And if there is one little tiny moment in this match at War Games where you have a slight miscommunication between Roman Reigns and CM Punk, or Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn, right? Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, it's going to bring that history and that doubt right back into your mind. And I would have to think they're going to have some of those little tiny moments built into this match because that's what's going to heighten the drama, right? The suspense to figure out exactly how is this thing going to play out. And then, of course, you still have the stuff of, could The Rock make an appearance? Could you have this kind of stuff at the end, just like we saw in Bad Blood? So this is, I think, the way they brought Heyman back, we knew he'd be the last person, and it was just a matter of timing, right? When did they want to make it official? Did they want to go into Survivor Series with that mystery as to who was going to be the fifth person? We mentioned the possibilities of maybe Rollins does get added to the team. Maybe the main event thing with Bronson Reed on Monday. Maybe that, hey, Seth Rollins is like, I don't care anymore. Screw it. I'm not even teaming with Roman Reigns. I'll be in the match, but I'm only in there because I want to destroy Bronson Reed and Solo for what they did. That could have been a possibility. But I think now the way you look at it, it's just the setup of having Roman Reigns teaming with CM Punk, two people that you knew were going to eventually cross paths in WWE when CM Punk made his return 1 year ago. And that's fitting, isn't it? That CM Punk comes back 1 year ago at Survivor Series, and now this is potentially another huge tease as to what could happen in the future between a Roman Reigns and a CM Punk match, which is a money match. If you're looking at the matches on the list for WWE in terms of the money matches that they have right now, that is one of many. Roman Reigns, CM Punk, the Paul Heyman dynamic, and all of that. So it's perfect. And I think, when I think back to the previous regime in WWE, the way things are going for a while there, in terms of how they were doing storylines and all this, you would have probably just had a scenario where Seth Rollins said, you know what, I am not going to team with Roman Reigns under any circumstances. And then a week later, all of a sudden, it's forgotten, right? And Seth Rollins is like, sure, I'll team with Roman Reigns, and we'll just go into this match, and everything is fine. But I'm glad that didn't happen, because you see the details, and this is what we've been talking about throughout this entire year. With the Triple H era, it's the tiny details. It's the things where you're watching two people talk in the background while someone else is doing a promo. It's all the tiny stuff that all comes together and makes this so compelling. And now, all the directions, that they can go with this and all kind of the hints that they were giving us that it wasn't going to be as easy as Seth Rollins being the fifth member of this team. And now it's Punk coming back, and the visual, right, of just having CM Punk and Roman Reigns standing there in the middle of the ring. Paul Heyman is up on the apron, standing between them. What an unbelievable visual. And that's why WWE is the king of presentation, is because even as much as, it's the little things like standing in certain places in the ring and giving fans kind of that, what could go down here type feeling. And that's exactly what you had on, the finish of this particular SmackDown. And so well done, I thought. Now, I know some people are pointing out Paul Heyman coming out, kind of what his attire was here, right? He had the red shirt on, he had the black thing. People are wondering, okay, maybe is this kind of a hint that, Paul Heyman is coming back and eventually, has something in mind in terms of turning on Roman Reigns. That could still be something that comes into play here. I don't know that it's as simple as all of a sudden Heyman's back and everyone's happy and everything's fine again, because like we said, how is Reigns really going to react and think about this? Not just in this moment, right? Where you did have, if you guys saw it and you go back and watch the replay, you did have Punk and Reigns exchanging some words here, where it was basically Reigns telling Punk, I don't trust you, and, Punk's like, you don't have to trust me, I'm just here for him. And, of course, him is Paul Heyman. And so, that was the logical argument you could make, that if Punk was going to join this team, he wasn't going to do it for Roman Reigns, he was going to do it for Paul Heyman. And so, I think now it kind of sets up that possibility of, okay, how did these three kind of, coexist, and who comes out of this on the same side? Could you have someone else, again, be in a position where there are ulterior motives here, where maybe Heyman has something else, in the works here, the wise man himself? We see that Reigns here could not come up with a plan, right? Heyman is the one who came up with his plan. And so when you look at those possibilities, I just think there's a lot of fresh directions you can go in here with this thing. But I'm glad that we know now the teams, a week away. And also, let's call this what it is, too. We've been saying this on recent videos we've done. There are spoilers out there. They did tape SmackDown for next week. So if you want to see the spoilers, you can go find them. We don't talk about them on these reaction shows. We just do kind of what we see right now, what we've seen in front of us. So we'll talk about SmackDown, next week going into Survivor Series, but we're not going to get into the spoilers and all that. So I'm not even going to lead you in any directions of what could happen on SmackDown. You can find them if you want. But yeah, you guys know that's just not really what we do here. We just talk about the show itself, and we let them play out as we see them. They're doing a lot more of these tapings, as you know. So holiday time, they're trying to get some episodes in, give the workers some time off. I get it. So go find the spoilers if you want to see what happened on next week's edition of SmackDown. But that was the big development, as we know, CM Punk joining, and I think this just, again, adds so many different things that you can work with, not only just in this match, but coming out of this match. We also know CM Punk has to be back into that world title picture at some point, right? He won the Drew McIntyre feud. He mentioned that was his ultimate goal. So now what happens to Punk coming out of this? How quickly can he get back into that picture, or is he not in that picture in the near future? Does it immediately go into the stuff with Rollins, who we know Seth Rollins is going to have something to say, or he's going to do something after seeing what happened here with CM Punk joining up with Roman Reigns? And I think that's a good transition, because if you start to see how this is playing out, right? Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens, it's the same kind of thing in a different way. Because why is Kevin Owens so upset with Cody Rhodes, right? It's because Cody had the nerve to go team with Roman Reigns. And what a tremendous promo segment I thought between those two on this show. Think about it. This show's headlined by CM Punk's big return, Paul Heyman's big return. But I still am sitting here thinking about how good that exchange was and how real that exchange was between Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes. They did such a fantastic job of pushing the idea that Kevin Owens now hates Cody Rhodes because of basically what Cody Rhodes has become as the champion, right? He's this person who's going out and he's teaming with Roman Reigns, and, Cody thinks he's bigger than everything now, basically, right? And it is because kind of the same point we've made with Randy Orton. And I think this is where it could get kind of fun, because everything that Kevin Owens said here, if you think about it, Randy Orton could say some of the exact same things. Now, he just got power-driven by Kevin Owens. He's probably going to say them right now. But if you think about it, Randy Orton can say the same type of stuff that Kevin Owens is saying about the fact that Cody decides to team with someone who tried to end his career, right? Roman Reigns in the Bloodline tried to end Kevin Owens' career. But yet Cody thought it was okay to go team with Roman Reigns. Cody says, well, I thought it was the best, idea at the time, all this other stuff. But could this be where, hey, Randy Orton's hearing this? He just took a pile driver from Owens, probably not pleased with him at the moment. But he's hearing this, and just as Carmelo Hayes said, backstage, whenever, Cody comes to the back, Carmelo says, hey, we're all just kind of saying what Kevin Owens said is true. And that leads to what we know is going to be a match between Cody and Carmelo next week. But I just think that is something where now they can play it this way, where what Owens is saying is true, if you really think about it. And that's where Cody came back kind of calling, KO the victim here, and how he's playing the victim game and all this other stuff, and how it's been Owens is the person who really has held Owens back. He wants to be the face of WWE, but look at all he's accomplished, right? This is a team game, as Cody says. You don't have to be the face of WWE. Easy to say for Cody, right? Because he is the face of WWE. So I thought this was, really a great exchange, and what we always say, too, I think the best heels are the ones who certainly, at every point, believe what they're saying is true. Like, it's not just a delusional heel and all this other stuff that's saying stuff that you're like, well, that's complete nonsense. And then you just kind of brush it off, right? I think the best heels are the ones who drop that truth, and you're like, you know what? He believes what he's saying. And there may be a little bit in that he's actually right about. And so there are definitely some things you can hear Kevin Owens say here, and understand that if you were in that same situation, if you had just had Roman Reigns and the Bloodline try to end your career the way that they did for Kevin Owens and for Randy Orton, you could have the same frustrations with your friend and former friend now, Cody Rhodes. And so they really push this. And look, we don't, the way they're playing it, I don't think they're having this match at Survivor Series. I don't think Survivor Series needs this match. It seems like Saturday night's main event is the direction, although you can check out the spoilers. Maybe they do something that I just haven't looked at yet. But I think, again, go back and watch this promo segment. There's multiple things I will say that about on this episode. I thought it's one of the better SmackDowns in a while in terms of top to bottom. Just good stuff, like good professional wrestling on this particular episode. And so go back and watch the words here and what exactly they had to say to each other, because I think there's so much in there that now can be used as fuel for whatever happens next with Randy Orton. And they're still playing up the idea that we're not going to see Orton anytime soon, but you would think if they are holding this match off to Saturday night's main event, which is still several weeks away, right? That's where I think you have the option of maybe having Orton return, play a role in that somehow. But they could wait a little bit longer, because the more we look at this, I put out the YouTube shorts yesterday on who is going to be Cody Rhodes' opponent. We still know The Rock's in the mix. You still got to think Roman Reigns is probably in the mix somewhere. But, it isn't an option where you do drag this Cody and Randy Orton thing out until then. Who knows? But I think this was a great segment between these two. And I think one of the better things that completely hooked you on what could be next for Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens. But I did tease earlier, too, that you had another kind of suspicious development here on this particular show, as it was Jade Cargill laid out on a car in the back, and that left Bianca Belair having to run out of the triple threat match in the United States women's title tournament, which Chelsea Green wound up winning. She pinned Blair Davenport in that. But Belair goes to the back. She winds up getting in the ambulance, going to the hospital with Jade. And, there you have the scenario of Bayley sitting there looking around. Naomi's looking around. So now, Nick Aldis is looking around the parking lot. Who's around here? What happened? We don't know, right? And I've seen some theories that are out there on social media already. But for now, Jade is out of the tournament, right? And so people are asking, who's going to replace Jade? And I've seen the two most popular choices, which I'm saying this right now. You already know who's replacing Jade. If you look at the spoilers, you already know who it is. But I'm just thinking out loud here without having looked at the spoilers already. I have not yet. Usually I do. I have not looked at the spoilers yet. So I was a little under the weather yesterday, actually, guys. I didn't even know if I was going to be able to do this video today. Well, it may be tomorrow. But I haven't even looked at the spoilers yet. I would have to think that probably, one of the options I see people pitching around is, could it be Lash Legend? Could she be an option? And then, of course, the other one is Charlotte Flair, because there's been the tease that Charlotte's coming back soon, very, very soon. And so could she be the person who replaces it? Again, you may already know. If you want to spoil it in the comments, I guess you're free to do so. But I've not looked yet. And so that, to me, seems like the thing there. But it also plays into War Games, right? Because you've got to have a replacement for War Games if Jade is out of the mix. And now, though, we have a mystery. Who attacked Jade Cargill? And we'll talk more about that. I've got some theory, but we'll see. I'm sure you guys have some great ideas, too, in the comments. Let me know what they are, because I just haven't thought a lot about it. Again, I was a little bit under the weather yesterday, so I haven't really thought a lot about this just yet, but I do think it's something that's going to lead to something big, as we said. So they wouldn't do that just for no reason. So elsewhere on this show, you had Shinsuke Nakamura setting his sights on LA Knight, who defeated Santos Escobar, which, kind of figured what would happen. But I like this new Nakamura, right? And I said this seems to be one of Triple H's guys in terms of they're kind of repackaging Nakamura here, giving him a chance to really kind of freshen up his character a little bit. And I like the way they're doing this now. So I don't know that he's going to take the belt off of LA Knight, although I would say never say never when it comes to this, especially when you have a guy like this who's repackaged and presented in a way that they're presenting Nakamura right now. But at least I think this is maybe one of those first few feuds that you can really sink your teeth into with LA Knight. And we talked about kind of the Cody Rhodes effect sometimes with these, the big baby face finally wins the championship, and you have to figure out a way to keep that buzz going. And it just hasn't happened with LA Knight. And so I think you want to give him very sort of defined challengers who at least pose some kind of threat in terms of what they are trying to achieve, right? Nothing against Carmelo, nothing against Andrade. But as we said, those guys win a 7-match series. No one won the series. Were they really going to be a big threat to the championship? Nakamura is different. He's showing something a little bit different than those guys did. So I think it at least sets up a good match, if anything. But I think this is finally something with LA Knight where you do feel like, things can escalate a little bit here based on kind of the hatred that Nakamura is showing for LA Knight. So I like the way things are headed here. And we say this with SmackDown, right? Think about some of the reaction videos we were doing on SmackDown even a couple months ago. I'm like, boy, this mid-card, kind of thing with SmackDown just wasn't really working, I thought, that well at the time. It just felt a little bit, a little bit to be desired versus Raw at the moment. But now I think SmackDown has really picked it up in recent weeks. And you're seeing, and look, here's what's one of the reasons it's helping, right? Because you're doing Survivor Series. You've got people from Raw coming over to SmackDown. That's definitely helped. And so, we understand that. But nonetheless, at least I told you guys, I'm fine with that. Like, put everybody on Raw and SmackDown when you need them. Put everybody on SmackDown on Raw when you need them. I don't care about the brand split. Netflix is coming up. So put everybody that you can on any of these shows to give them the best possible show. That's what it should be about. It should not be about some self-inflicted brand split that you just have to abide by no matter what. Give people the best show. That's my thought. So, and I think they're doing that right now. So elsewhere on SmackDown, as I look through my notes here, because I'm like, there was so much that happened, and I want to make sure I didn't forget anything. So you did have also the stuff going on with the tag team scene. As we said, you have Montez Ford get kind of the quick flash pinfall win over Tommaso Ciampa. That sends Ciampa, into a chaotic moment where he's going after Ford. That brings Gargano out. He gets pushed by Ciampa again. Dawkins is coming out to save his partner. The Motor City Machine Guns are kind of on the side of Johnny Gargano. So you've got these sort of, personal conflicts going on between these guys right now. And like I said, I think you're definitely seeing a slow burn on where we're headed with the Street Profits. I think they're headed towards something that's a little bit, again, more compelling right now than maybe just the usual stuff we've seen with them, kind of getting maybe stuck in that same sort of pattern, but now you're kind of seeing them maybe change it up a little bit. And of course, the same is with Ciampa, right? They're kind of going back to that old NXT type style. And so, how does Gargano react to this moving forward? How does it play into the stuff with the current champions, the Motor City Machine Guns? And so, you do have that as well. And so, the other thing on the show was the women's side of things, War Games. You did have Nick Aldis asking Nia Jax if she had anything to do with Jade's attack, which, Nia denies, and so, can't ever believe a heel, but at least Nia has denied it right off the bat here. And you did have that tag team match where, you kind of had all the War Games members getting involved. Bayley and Naomi versus Tiffany and Candice LeRae. Rhea Ripley is kind of the person who once again makes the save. So Rhea in the mask is ready to go for War Games. These teams are ready to go, like we said, minus whatever's going to happen with Jade Cargill. You can probably find it out there and know exactly what they're doing based on the taped edition. But for now, what we see based on the shows that have been aired, we don't know what's going to happen yet with that. So, just the same kind of stuff leading us into War Games on that. So, again, guys, I said it. You can probably hear it in my voice. Like, I thought this was a really good edition of SmackDown. I just thought, kind of the different touches they had on the storylines here were about as good as they get in building everything and heightening interest for not only Survivor Series and the War Games matches by having Punk added to the mix with Roman Reigns. I think the women's War Games match just as compelling now based on what they're going to do there. But it's also, looking ahead at Cody versus Owens and seeing, how that's going to play out and all this stuff. And so I think that is, kind of where you need to be at this point in the year where you're getting in the Survivor Series, which means what? You're getting now, after Survivor Series, closer to the Royal Rumble, which means you're getting closer to WrestleMania 41. So you've got to really turn things up a notch, and I think that's exactly what happened here, and it's also what's going to happen with the fallout of Survivor Series next week. So there you go, guys. My thoughts on SmackDown, and I'm really excited about where we're headed here with these storylines on SmackDown. So there you go. They're my thoughts on SmackDown. As always, appreciate your feedback. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to that subscribe button. Hit the like button as well on your way out. Got some new videos coming here on the channel soon. And, of course, we'll have our Survivor Series predictions coming up next week as well. But, again, guys, appreciate you watching as always. And let me know your thoughts on this week's edition of WWE SmackDown.